The Galactic Summit had waited 13 full minutes past schedule, which, by the standards of the Imperial calendar, was nearly a diplomatic insult. High Consul Veract of the Thoraxi clicked his mandibles, impatiently dragging a claw across the crystalline table. "Are we to understand," he hissed to the room of assembled alien dignitaries, "that humanity sends no representative? Or perhaps they've perished, tripping over their own planetary gravity." A few chuckles followed, low and buzzing, though none too eager. The Thoraxi were known for their diplomacy, as much as for their tendency to consume rivals mid-negotiation. Beside them, the Scarveth ambassador, a gelatinous orb of simmering psionic static, twitched in disinterest. A dozen species were present, all orbiting the Empire's black core throne world, each with their own histories, grievances, and grudges. Then, with no great flourish and absolutely no military escort, the human delegate arrived. She walked alone, wearing a matte gray suit and lace gloves, her hair tied into a precise coil. In one hand, she carried a worn leather satchel. In the other, a steaming ceramic cup. No guards, no armor, not even a datapad. The Galactic Assembly fell silent as she took the final steps into the chamber. "Apologies for the delay," she said with a gentle, almost melodic voice. "The tea on your moon station is robust. I brewed my own." She smiled, not warmly, but politely, an offering, not a promise. High Consul Veract made a low chitter. "And what precisely are you?" The woman set her cup down on the table with the careful attention of someone handling explosives. "General Lara Voss, Earth's representative." "General?" The Scarveth ambassador pulsed a dark yellow hue, the universal sign for skepticism. "Is this a military summit?" "Not at all." "Lara Saturday, but I find diplomacy easier when people remember I've studied its alternatives." She reached into her satchel and placed a modest tin on the table. "Shortbread? Hand-baked." She passed it toward the Veruvian trade monarch, who blinked 3 eyes in confusion. High Consul Veract leaned forward. "Earth has been warned. You've expanded beyond quarantine zones, interfered in lesser-developed systems, colonized 3 moons belonging to sovereign species." "Yes," Lara said calmly. "We had lunch there. Lovely terrain. No signs of habitation, unless you count moss." "That moss," a delegate from Yazar shrieked, "was sacred." "I baked it into the cookies," Lara said. "A bit chewy." Half the chamber erupted in shouts. The Veruvian quietly took a cookie anyway. Lara sipped her tea. She was utterly unarmed, visibly fragile among creatures built to crush, pierce, disintegrate, or telepathically collapse lesser minds. Yet none of them could explain why they hadn't moved against her. Not yet. "You should know," said Veract, mandibles flexing. "This chamber is shielded. No human satellites. No surveillance. No reinforcements. You are alone." "Oh, I'm aware," Lara replied. "It's why I arrived precisely 13 minutes late. I needed to be sure the room was locked." A long pause followed. The Krelek Admiral, a towering reptilian built like a war tank, grunted. "Do you threaten council?" "No," Lara said with a tilt of her head. "I was invited." Another silence. Subtler this time. Not the stillness of confusion, but of calculation. The Yazar shrieked again. "Your species is an infestation. You build, you spread, you consume. You masquerade in kindness while harboring primitive instincts." Lara's gaze shifted slowly. "You mistake etiquette for passivity. A common error. You dare." She cut the ambassador off with a slight raise of her finger. "We say please before asking you to step aside. Not because we lack claws, but because we know how messy it gets if you don't." The Scarveth ambassador blinked with deliberate slowness. "There is no record of your military service." "There wouldn't be," Lara said. A hum echoed beneath the chamber as certain delegates began pulling up restricted intel. Redacted files. Blacklisted campaigns. One found her name tagged in an old Terran cipher project labeled Orchid Protocol. Next to it, the note, "Raised under Class A containment by Subject Baba Yaga." The delegate swallowed. The chamber's oxygen felt thinner. Lara glanced down, brushing invisible lint from her glove. Your empire's rule by threat. Ours was forged by patience. Patience. Virac sneered. You waged war on your own species for millennia. And learned from every minute, Lara replied. But we don't fear war anymore. We stopped fearing it when we realized what came after was worse. You came to make threats then, said the Krelek admiral, shifting in his chair, armor clanking like tectonic plates. No. I came for tea, Lara said, smiling again. And to listen. To what? Asked the Scarveth. The Empire's last confident words. One of the alien guards, a twitchy, avishal youth, stepped forward. Perhaps we should remove the human. Lara did not move. She simply glanced at the guard, and the way her head tilted, just slightly, just so, triggered a survival instinct buried deep in even the most warlike species. The kind of tilt predators make before striking the throat. The guard froze. His weapon jittered in his claws. I recommend, she said softly, that you don't draw anything you aren't ready to die holding. Virac stood with a screech, slamming a claw into the table. Enough. You insult us, General. We expected a negotiator, not a relic in a pantsuit. Lara rose then, slowly, casually. But the moment she did, the room tensed. Something coiled beneath her stillness, like gravity, like pressure building behind the skin of reality. I'm not here to negotiate, she said. They stared. She took a breath and let it out in perfect control. You thought we sent a voice, but Earth sent knife, dipped in charm, gloved in lace, and we let you talk. Virac bared his teeth. You make bold claims for a species so recently spacefaring. Lara turned toward him. We watched your empire for decades. We smiled. We complied. We let you measure us. But every time we brought gifts, we measured you back. A dozen species flickered in discomfort. You believed we were children. You saw our music, our clumsy politics, our sitcoms and kitchen appliances, and assumed that was all. The Scarveth ambassador whispered, Then what are you? Lara's smile faded. Do you know who raised me? She asked the room. No one answered. He was a myth even among us. We called him Baba Yaga, not the witch, the ghost that haunts the wicked. He taught me 10 ways to kill with a pencil, 12 ways to vanish in a crowd. He told me love is a shield, kindness is camouflage, and that humanity's greatest weapon is its story. She paused. And our story is tired of being laughed at. From within her coat, she pulled a small, unmarked cube. She placed it gently on the table. This is a data node, she said. In it are recordings, timelines, fleet locations, vulnerabilities. You offer surrender? Virac asked. No, Lara said. I offer context. This is what we know. This is how we'll win. You still have time to evacuate civilians. We're not savages. The silence returned, deeper this time. Reverent. Haunted. She picked up her tea, drank, then said, Tell your empires. Earth isn't coming for you out of rage. She paused. We're coming because you touched our children. The Scarveth dimmed 2 shades. Lara turned to leave. You won't make it off this planet, Virac growled. We'll have you detained. She stopped in the doorway, adjusting her glove. If that's true, she said without turning, then the death toll will start with me, and end with your son. Then she walked out, unhurried, composed, deadly. In her absence, no one spoke. Not for a full minute. Not until one of the junior delegates finally dared to whisper what everyone else was thinking. We just declared war on them, didn't we? And no one answered, because deep down they already knew. The holding cell was colder than necessary. Sterile. Metallic. A deliberate insult, thought General Lara Voss, as she folded her coat across her lap with meticulous care. The walls buzzed faintly, layered in dampeners designed to block every known form of communication. It didn't matter. The Empire was decades too late to lock the right doors. Outside, beyond the reinforced glass, 2 guards, one Thoraxi and one Azar, stood nervously watching her. She offered them a small, pleasant nod. The Thoraxi pretended not to see. The Azar blinked too fast, unable to hide his unease. She'd been escorted out of the summit chamber without resistance, with no weapons and no protest. Her final words had turned the air inside that hall into something brittle and electric. Empires didn't know what to do with a threat that didn't shout, that didn't bluster, that simply promised. Lara adjusted her gloves. "I do hope this doesn't become tedious," she murmured to the empty cell. The door hissed open. 6 more guards entered, all armed. Behind them walked an alien draped in ceremonial black, a Cyrethian operative. Thin, gliding, eyes like black ink that never dried. "I am Carveth," he announced. "I've been ordered to verify your claims." "Which ones?" Lara asked, crossing her legs. "The T, or the destruction of your listening moon?" Carveth did not blink. "We received no such report." "Of course not. That would spoil the surprise." He stepped forward. "You're bluffing." "Would it make you feel better if I were?" She leaned forward slightly, just enough to make him instinctively shift his weight. "I always wondered what your kind looked like beneath all that black. I imagined something softer." He hesitated, then drew out a device and activated it midair. A projection burst to life. A holographic image of what had once been a moon-sized listening post deep in the fractaline expanse. The image froze halfway through. The structure was gone. No explosion. No debris. Just absence. "We lost contact 32 minutes ago," Carveth said. "We assumed it was a power grid failure." "That's your first mistake," Lara replied, smoothing the hem of her slacks. "Assuming humans break things by accident." He lowered the device. "You had help." "Of course." Her tone was light, conversational. "I asked nicely." Another shift. The guards behind him stirred. "I've studied your culture," Carveth said. "Your people seem obsessed with entertainment, food, distractions. You dance during wars. You write music for funerals. You name bombs after your ex-lovers. That is not strength. It's boredom," she replied. "When you've been caged long enough, you get creative." Carveth stepped closer. "We still do not understand who trained you. That's by design. No records exist. No neural map. You aren't just dangerous, you're invisible." "Isn't that what monsters are?" she asked gently. He stared, silent. She smiled. "Would you like to see what my father taught me?" He didn't answer, which she took as consent. Lara stood. 2 guards raised their weapons. She didn't look at them. She simply moved, 3 quick steps. A blur. By the time the 4th step landed, 1 guard's rifle was in 2 pieces, the 2nd guard was unconscious, and Carveth found himself pressed against the wall, with her gloved hand tightening against his throat. "No effort," she whispered. "No adrenaline. That's what scares you most. Not the violence. The ease of it." His breath hitched. She let him go. He staggered, gasping. "You weren't a test," she said, returning calmly to her seat. "You were a warning. A prompt. A little cosmic prod to see how quickly the Empire panics." The door opened again. This time, no one entered. A device was tossed in, an old Earth model, military grade. She caught it mid-air without looking. Her face softened with recognition. That was fast. The screen lit up with a coded message. Only she could read it, and even then only barely. It was a simple glyph, orchid bloomed. She smiled faintly. They always underestimate the florals. Carveth was still recovering, glaring now. That was not an accident, was it? The missing moon. No, she powered down the device. That was a message. "We're done waiting." He leaned against the wall. "You're provoking open war." "Not provoking. Declaring." She folded the device into her coat. "Besides, you've already lost 1 front. You just don't know which one yet." Outside the chamber, alarms sounded. Carveth flinched. The guards tensed. Lara remained seated. "Did they just find your covert fleet? Oh, that's unfortunate. I do hope they made it off the ground in time." He drew a knife. She didn't move. "You think I fear death?" he asked. "No," she said. "I think you fear dying without meaning." He charged, and found nothing. She was already behind him. The knife clattered to the ground. He collapsed next to it, disarmed, paralyzed from the base of the neck. She knelt, whispering, "That was a pressure point my father showed me." He said it works on anything with ambition. The guards tried to raise weapons. She gave them one look, just one, and something passed between them. Not fear, recognition. They lowered their rifles. She stood tall, brushing a wrinkle from her jacket. "I never hated your empire," she said. "I just wanted to see what you'd do when you weren't in charge anymore." She walked out without another word. In the communications center of the Imperial Citadel, a frantic chorus of voices fought to control the spread of chaos. Systems were failing. Satellites going dark. Outposts unresponsive. On every screen, the same message repeated, written in Earth Standard English. "You had your chance to speak softly. Now hear us roar." In the corridor, Lara moved briskly, calm. The guards behind her didn't dare intervene. One even followed. As she reached the elevator, a young officer sprinted toward her. A human, pale-faced, dressed in borrowed armor. His badge, Colony Beta Sigma, Earth's outer rim. "Ma'am," he whispered. "It's begun. Commands confirmed." "How many assets?" she asked. 6 teams in system. Another 12 inbound." She nodded. "Leave no record. Leave no martyrs. Just absence." "Yes, ma'am." She stepped into the lift alone. The doors closed. Inside, alone again, she finally allowed her shoulders to lower. Only slightly. She touched her glove, tracing a faint pattern across the palm. A hidden seal flickered open, revealing a tiny needle beneath the cloth. It wasn't poison. It was memory. She pressed it to her neck. A slow breath. The past flickered into view, not an image, but sensation. Cold. Snow. The smell of pine and blood. A man with tired eyes and deadly hands, showing her how to break a man's arm with elegance, not rage. "If they see your anger," he'd said, "they'll think they've won." Back in the lift, her eyes were clear again. The doors opened to the highest chamber of the Imperial Citadel. A view of the stars spread out beyond the windows. Distant lights, some already gone, others about to be. The Emperor himself stood near the glass, his robes heavy with jewels and arrogance. He didn't turn. "General Voss, I suppose you're here to negotiate." "No," she said. "Just to witness." "To witness what?" "The moment you realized you were never the predator." The alarms grew louder. The lights dimmed. He turned finally and saw the truth in her expression. Not hatred, not rage, purpose. "You'll burn world for pride?" he asked. She stepped forward. "No. For children. For colonies you erased. For families you made into ash, and then had the audacity to blame for being flammable." He narrowed his eyes. "You think Earth has allies?" "No," she said softly. "We don't need them." He sneered. "You'll die alone." Lara nodded once. "But not today." Behind her, the glass cracked, then shattered. A drop pod burst through the wall, human-designed, silent and fast. Inside it, reinforcements. Silent warriors. Black-clad. No insignia. The Emperor drew a blade, ancient and ceremonial. "Then let us see if your stories live up to their threats." Lara stepped back. "They're not stories," she said. "They're obituaries." She raised her hand. The pod opened. The lights went out. And the Empire, for the first time in its storied, tyrannical reign, learned what it meant to fear the silence between breaths. They had made their first mistake, and Earth would not offer the chance for a second. The hall of the United Galactic Assembly buzzed with controlled panic. The light had shifted, just enough to be noticed by those attuned to danger. The kind of light that comes before a storm, when skies go yellow and birds vanish and something in the blood knows to run. Even the Scarvith ambassador, a being devoid of true emotion, rippled with dull orange streaks, concern leaking out like ink in water. Behind closed doors, panic escalated with each failing system. Human interference had been a theory, then a nuisance, then an anomaly. Now it was a certainty. One by one, border colonies ceased transmission. Surveillance nodes flickered. Supply routes blinked out like extinguished stars. The Empire had not seen a declaration of war, but it had felt one begin. General Lara Voss was nowhere to be found. That, perhaps, unnerved them most. She was not broadcasting speeches. She did not parade victories. Her image did not flicker across enemy terminals with warnings. She simply disappeared. And wherever she disappeared from, something else vanished shortly after. The Azar ambassador, old, frail, and furious, paced in frantic ellipses around the council's holographic table. This is deliberate sabotage. Coordinated. They've compromised our interstellar array, severed our navigation grids, corrupted 3 planetary AIs. We are under attack. No, rumbled the Krelek admiral. This is not an attack. This is an operation. He pointed to a new report blinking into existence. Agravac system offline. No survivors. The room grew colder. One by one, ambassadors began to argue. Some screamed for counterassault. Others demanded an immediate call for surrender. The Scarveth pulsed faintly in agreement with both, trembling with rare indecision. A hush settled when a projection appeared at the room's center. A simple message. 3 Earth Standard words. Stop. Look again. A chill passed through the council. Someone said it was a joke. Another, a trick. Then the projection flickered. It zoomed out, showing a map of the Imperial core. Pulsing red circles highlighted the key systems, transport hubs, shield controls, AI nodes. And with terrifying clarity, they all connected. Not in a scattershot of random sabotage. In a net. In a noose. And Earth had pulled it tight. No human fleet had moved. No warships entered Imperial space in formation. And yet everything crucial had been mapped, measured, and quietly carved away. Not with bombs. With scalpels. The Emperor's voice, strained and brittle, echoed across the emergency channel. Find her. Find the woman. Before we wake up without a throne. In the shadow of the abandoned Scather archive, once a bustling Imperial think tank, and now an empty monument to arrogance, Lara stood with a young operative beside her. He was barely 30, former colonial mechanic, now sleepless and sharp-eyed. His name was Nathan Chow, but everyone called him Stitch. He handed her a datapad. They've lost planetary control on 16 worlds. Civilian revolts have begun on 5 more. Media suppression is failing faster than predicted. She skimmed the screen. They'll blame rogue factions. Randomized attacks. They already are. She nodded, tapping the screen to adjust a transmission frequency. Then let them. Every moment they spend lying to their own is a moment they aren't planning. Stitch hesitated. Some are surrendering. To us. No, he said. To each other. Her expression didn't shift, but her shoulders settled by a millimeter. Then the infection has begun. He glanced at her gloves. Always worn. Even now. What happens next? We disappear again. You mean you do? Lara looked at him for a long moment. No, Stitch. This time you're coming. His brow furrowed. I'm not trained for field combat. You're not going to fight, she said. You're going to show them what they've been ignoring. She handed him a separate chip. This has records. Thousands of hours of footage. Abductions. Massacres. Places the Empire erased from their archives. You're going to show it to the Council. Stitch blinked. That'll get me executed. She nodded. It might. His hands trembled. Why me? Because you look harmless. He stared. And because you're not, she added softly. Back at the council hall, Stitch moved quietly through corridors, wearing the crisp robes of a minor aide. No one noticed him. No one ever noticed the humans who bowed, who apologized, who carried the coffee and dusted the consoles. That had always been the Empire's mistake. Stitch accessed the central broadcast node. It was unattended. Why would anyone guard the broadcast terminal during an emergency? Who feared words when ships were vanishing? He uploaded the chip. The room filled with sound. The screaming of a child. The explosion of a dome-shaped colony station. Footage of the Thoraxi drones dragging civilians out of cratered buildings. Human buildings. Unarmed settlers. Crying mothers. Executions. Then a face. Lara's face. Calm. Clear. She spoke directly to them. To those still wondering why we came quietly for so long, this is why. You assumed the smiling woman in the room with knives in her teeth, must have been bluffing. But we were never smiling for your comfort. The image shifted, slowly, deliberately, to footage of planets returning to human control. Not through conquest, through collapse. Abandoned by their own governors. Filled with defectors. You built an empire with claws, she continued. We built a civilization with memory. You thought that made us soft. The final clip, a message recorded from one of the empire's own scientists, captured and debriefed. They weren't waiting because they were weak, he said, voice trembling. They were waiting because they were mapping us. By the time the message ended, the council was silent. Veract had not moved. His mandibles twitched. Scarveth had turned black, total psychic withdrawal, a defense mechanism. The Krelek admiral stood. We need to contact Earth directly. There is no Earth channel, Veract snapped. They've cut us off. No, said a new voice. A voice none of them expected. Lara Voss walked calmly into the chamber. Behind her, a small escort of humans in diplomatic uniforms. Their expressions unreadable. Not proud. Not gloating. Just ready. You've had centuries to talk, Lara said. And yet you always mistook noise for dialogue. Veract bared his fangs. You have committed war crimes. Then prosecute me, Lara said. Bring me your courts. Your justices. Let them look at what you did and ask how long we were supposed to wait. A hush followed. Scarveth pulsed a dim gray hesitation. You want surrender? Someone asked. No, Lara replied. I want acknowledgement. And after that, silence. Silence. She looked to the stars through the council's vaulted glass. You filled the galaxy with your echoes for too long. We're asking you to stop. Or we'll stop you. Veract rose, claws twitching. You can't kill an empire in a month. She walked up to him. Looked up, measured, unblinking. You're not an empire, she said. You're a noise machine. And we just found the off switch. He raised a claw. Her eyes never flinched. Then someone from his own delegation fired. Not at her. At him. He fell. Gasps. Movement. But no outrage. Because somewhere inside them, they'd already begun to understand what was happening. The empire wasn't falling because of lasers or bombs. It was falling because its own believed the humans now. And belief, once changed, spreads like fire in dry grass. Stitch appeared beside her. We need to leave. She nodded. The Krelek admiral stepped forward. Where are you going? She looked at him. To rebuild. He narrowed his eyes. And if we resist? Lara didn't smile. She only said, then we stop building. And start remembering. She turned. The room didn't stop her. No one moved. Because in that moment, they understood the truth she had never needed to scream. Humans don't bark. They wait. Then bite. And by the time you feel it, it's already over. The war didn't begin with a grand speech or a planet-shattering blast. It began in silence, like most terrible things. By the time the Empire realized it had truly fallen, the dust had already begun to settle on what used to be its heart. Not shattered, not burned, just gone. Sliced out of the galaxy as if it had never been. Its military command had dissolved into whispers. Its governors were vanishing mid-sentence. Its loyal citizens were surrendering to ghost fleets they couldn't even see. And at the center of it all was the woman they tried to detain, outwit, and dismiss. Lara Voss stood atop the ruins of the old tribunal tower, a relic of the Empire's judiciary supremacy, once towering, once absolute. Now cracked and crumbling, humming with the residue of systems overridden and shut down. She watched the light bend around the horizon of the throne world. It would be the last sunrise it would ever see under Imperial rule. Behind her, Stitch approached, his boots crunching softly over glass and shattered pride. Signals ready, he said. We're linked to the last remaining node of the Imperial broadcast web. She nodded, not looking at him. No resistance? None. They're too scattered, too scared. They're not scared of us yet, she murmured. Only of each other. That will change. Stitch hesitated. We've taken their fleets, their leaders, their symbols. What's left? Lara turned then, eyes steady. My voice. She stepped toward the console he'd activated. Simple, elegant, old tech by human standards, but functional. She keyed in the transmission, looping the feed through a dozen mass channels. When the connection clicked into place, she spoke, not to the council, not to commanders or politicians, but to the millions of species watching, waiting, unsure of what tomorrow would bring. "This is General Lara Voss of Earth," she began, voice clear, devoid of ceremony. For centuries, the Galactic Empire claimed peace. What they meant was obedience. What they offered was silence. What they took was everything else. Across the stars, translators activated. Civilians leaned closer to their screens. Pirate ships halted mid-jump. Station workers froze. They called us primitive, accused us of being emotional, dangerous, unfit to govern ourselves. But we didn't survive by being harmless. We survived because we waited, because we listened, because we learned. Her tone didn't waver. She wasn't pleading. She wasn't angry. She was simply done pretending. "You took our children. You bombed colonies with no defenses. You erased us from your records and told the galaxy we were lucky to breathe your air." A pause. She let the words land. "No more. Earth does not seek dominion. We don't want your thrones, your flags, or your empires. We want something more dangerous. We want freedom. And we are prepared to protect it, not just for us, but for everyone you've kept beneath your claws." The message ended without a flourish. Just her face, her certainty. And then the feed cut. Stitch swallowed. That was the last communication from this node. It'll self-wipe in 60 seconds. Lara walked away from it. Good. They stepped back into the corridor of the crumbling tower. Fires still burned in the distant city, but they weren't from bombs. They were from citizens dragging down statues, from officers tossing their medals into the sea, from defectors lighting the banners of the Empire and watching them curl into ash. This wasn't a revolution. It was a reckoning. A call echoed across the hallway, a voice that did not belong to Earth. Lara's hand went to her coat, not to draw a weapon, but to pause, listen, measure. From the shadows emerged a familiar figure. He wore the robes of the Imperial Inner Circle, but they were torn, dirt-streaked. The silver crest on his chest was cracked. It was High Consul Veract, and he was alone. He walked without the confidence of power now, just the weight of survival and regret. "You did it," he rasped. "You actually did it." Lara faced him without flinching. "You should have left Earth alone." He laughed once, dry and bitter. "We thought you were a strange species. Loud, unrefined, obsessed with your rituals and fictions. We never imagined." He trailed off. "That we could lie better than you," she offered. "No," he met her eyes. "That you could wait so long to bite." He stepped closer, hands empty. "I want to make a deal." "There are no more deals," she said. "There's only what you owe." Veract hesitated. "I can give you something you don't have." Lara didn't speak. She let silence pressure him. "The Emperor," he whispered. "He's not dead." Stitch blinked. "Impossible." Veract's voice dropped. "He fled 3 days ago. Abandoned the throne world. Took the vault ship." Lara's jaw tightened. "You let him run?" "I didn't know until it was too late. I stayed. I thought I could negotiate. But I was just one more pawn." Lara turned her back to him and walked to the edge of the shattered balcony. Below, the city smoldered. Victory didn't feel like celebration. It never did. Not when it was earned this way. "He'll rebuild," Veract said. "He has allies. Vault worlds. Resources you haven't touched." "I know," she said. "He'll come for you. I'm counting on it." She turned, face unreadable. Veract took a step forward. "So what now? Trial? Execution?" "No," Lara said. "I want you to live." His brow furrowed. "What?" "You'll live long enough to watch every remnant of your empire vanish. You'll walk among survivors and see what they rebuild without you. That will be your sentence." He swallowed hard. "You're cruel." "No," she said, brushing past him. "I'm thorough." Stitch followed in silence. They left him there, staring into the ruins of what he'd once controlled, trying to understand how an unarmed woman had undone a 1,000-year rule without raising her voice. They didn't look back. The shuttle that picked them up wasn't military. It didn't need to be. The war was over in the ways that mattered. What came next would be diplomacy, repair, remembering, and warnings. Lara sat beside Stitch as they broke orbit. The stars stretched ahead of them like a horizon of new beginnings and old scars. "Where are we going?" he asked. "To find the vault ship," she said. He blinked. "You think you can?" She looked out the window, expression unreadable. "I don't think," she said. "I know where he'll go. There's only one place cowards like that run to, places where their name still matters." "You going to kill him?" "No," she replied. "I'm going to show him the same mercy he gave our colonies, our children, our people." Stitch leaned back, silent. Lara's glove flexed. Beneath the fabric, her skin bore the faintest line, a knife scar years old. The first lesson Baba Yaga had taught her. She'd been 12, cold, angry, alone. He'd handed her a broken compass and said, "Never follow the path they give you. Make your own, and make it sharp." She closed her eyes now. The path was sharp, and it had led here. When the shuttle entered deep space, sensors pinged. An encrypted beacon. A human signature. Vanguard class. Vanguard 1. The ghost ship. The knife that had vanished from the drawer. Her eyes opened. "Got him." Stitch's mouth went dry. "Now what?" Lara smiled, just slightly. "Now the story ends the way it always should have." And with the stars drawing close like teeth, Earth's quiet storm moved forward once more. The peace had been a lie. The woman had never been the diplomat. She was the weapon. And she was only just getting started.